And we're back, episode 3 of the Post Republic. I am Adrian here with Tyler and Silas. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well, sir. How are
Pretty
you?
good.
Another crazy week in this world, US of A, country of ours.
Yep, there's a lot going on in the liberal galactic empire that we live in. I was going to go through these stories really quick. I can just do like a quick rundown. The trade war is heating up. China responds with strong language in response to Trump's tariffs. Al Green, 86, from Trump's address to Congress. Zelensky changes his tune, says he will sign Trump's mineral deal and work to end the war. Putin is set to meet with Trump in person soon. Oh, and my favorite story right here, Gavin Newsom's first episode of his new podcast. This is Gavin Newsom, and his first guest was Charlie Kirk, and those were some pretty interesting clips. Interesting conversation, to say the least. Trump to sign executive action dismantling the Department of Education. Pharma industry desperately trying to make the measles outbreak a thing. Epstein files are giant nothing burger, but FBI New York field office is rumored to be refusing to release thousands of Epstein documents. And also I added another one here. Vivek Ramaswamy announces his run for Ohio governor. So yeah, lots of stuff going. And there's also other stuff I didn't mention. Anything else you guys want to add to the list? It's good to keep track of this stuff. I also added one other thing. Amy Coney Barrett hates Trump with the fire of 1,000 suns. It's maybe a little bit of a side quest of a story, but I think it's important because, you know, how important the Supreme Court is to, you know, getting things done. So, and she's been voting against him way more than it seems like she should. So, but yeah, let's dive in. What interests you guys the most, or what stories did I miss?
Well, I mean, Gavin Newsom's podcast it's got to be top story of for the next few months.
Oh,
I can't
yeah.
think of anything else I'd want to be watching.
I really am going to watch every episode.
Well, here I pulled a clip
Yes. Let's go.
from Gavin his debut episode, and
I couldn't find the video version. Did you find it? Did he upload it?
yeah, there's a video version with this. It's definitely worth a watch.
Yes.
To the Gavin Newsom podcast. I know no one actually asked for this and they'd prefer I do my actual job instead of whatever the hell this is, but everyone knows I march to the beat of my own drum, which is why when I locked everyone down during COVID, I still went to fancy restaurants that you poor losers couldn't even afford to work at, let alone eat at. I appreciate the poor optics of another podcast hosted by a straight white male, but the world needs this now more than ever. And from what I've read online, most people don't consider me straight or a man anyhow. Have I made mistakes as governor? Not really. Actually, no. I have never made a mistake ever. I guess banging my campaign manager's wife could be viewed as a mistake, except hypergamy is a very common lifestyle in California. Some people like to say I was asleep at the wheel, which made the LA fire substantially more devastating. But again, I haven't made any mistakes. Also, aren't you amazed how little I'm using my hands while I talk? My aides told me the way I talk makes me look like a complete psychopath. So I'm doing my best to talk like a normal person right now. Plus, I'm not a psychopath, just a sociopath. Those are two very different things. Oops, I'm doing it again. Old habits die hard. Don't tell that to my new campaign manager, though. Just kidding. Or am I?
If you like,
That's great.
Oh, I would watch so many hours of that.
Yeah.
I would watch a full AI Gavin Newsom episode. I think it'd be more
That's
interesting.
going to be the future of entertainment for sure. Like, there's going to be all kinds of side shows that are just mocking the real show.
Have you
Like,
guys?
the Dr. Phil thing with Adam Ray, that's like catching on. So I feel like using AI, everyone will be making all kinds of crazy stuff like that.
Yeah. Did you guys see the Bill Maher uh, what Kyle Dunnigan doing Bill Maher on
Yes.
Kill Tony.
That was
Pretty
hilarious.
funny. I have you guys seen there's a YouTube channel dedicated to doing Dungeons and Dragons campaigns, and it's all AI voices, but it's like Joe Biden and
Oh, man.
Barack Obama and Donald Trump. Oh, they're pretty good.
I think that's the best thing that's come from AI so far is deep
Yeah.
fake comedies.
The mockumentary vibe is awesome. But you know, I've every clip I've seen of that podcast was good. You know, with
Oh,
Gavin Newsom. So I'm hoping he keeps that vibe going where it's
yeah.
like seems like an open conversation. And if he keeps people that are kind of contrary to him coming in as his first guest, I think he'll actually get a good following.
He's very smart. The man knows what he needs to do. He's going to be the new Joe Rogan, even though he's still the fucking governor and he's got a huge burn scar he needs to clean up. But I got time for a podcast.
No, Mother Gaia will heal itself in time.
Oh, you're right.
No, I think it's worth it to. I'm gonna dig up a clip because I couldn't find the actual video version, but Charlie Kirk posted a couple. It's worth us finding that clip because, like you said, Silas, it's actually like not too bad. So I'm gonna go look for that real quick.
What was the clip of? Is it him talking about his son? Because I have a clip here. The actual show.
Yeah,
here.
any of them if you want.
I'll play this if you find something different that you want to share. Let's roll into that.
Yep.
I thought this was pretty funny though.
Last night, trying to put my son to bed. He's like, no, Dad, what time? What time's Charlie going to be here? What time? And I'm like, dude, you're in school tomorrow. He's 13. He's like, no. This morning, wakes up at 6 something. He's like, I'm coming. I'm like, he literally would not leave the house.
Did you let him take off school?
No, he did. Of course not. He's not here for a good reason. But the point is
Come on,
the
you canceled
point.
school for like 2 years. Once one day, it took one day.
The point is the point.
He's
Which
laughing.
is you are making a damn dent.
Thank you. I'm kidding.
When you go to these college campuses, I love watching your TikTok, which is next level. And clearly, that's expressed by my 13-year-old son.
I want to meet this guy.
Yeah, I actually
He's
am
coming to a Turning Point event this summer, Tampa, Florida, Student Action Summit.
I actually am by the way, if
You
you
should
did,
be concerned.
but actually, let me say here is why I'm concerned because you have expressed that I should be concerned as a Democrat that we're getting
that's true. Okay.
clobbered.
Yes.
That you figured something out.
It's
The
not me. The president first deserves the credit.
But why? No, hold on. You were at this before Trump was
No,
Trump.
I know, but
he was a Democrat back in 2011
Yeah, but
and 12.
the president deserves huge credit. And I just have to say that as an obligatory thing, because without him,
I
our
appreciate
movement would be small. And you can appreciate that in politics. You have to appreciate the person
Did
who is
he,
the catalyst.
for you, that's what you sort of attached an identity
It was
with
also
him?
just the catalyst. It was a cultural moment.
Mortal
that just opened
Kombat
us
move
up.
there. A little
Yeah,
fireball.
that was aggressive. Jeez. Doing his voodoo right there in front of everyone.
That's right. I was thinking I'm not a like a body language expert or anything like that, but I am an actor, and I do know that when people use their hands a lot like that, they either there's a manipulation type of thing going on, or some sort of role that they're playing, or it is kind of like a form of voodoo to talk with your hands and stuff like that. And his hand talking is definitely on 100 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think, unfortunately, he has potential to get some momentum with this. I did think it was pretty interesting. His son is into Charlie Kirk, which means that.
I don't believe him.
Yeah, God, you're right. I mean, why would he say that?
He's trying to play this role of like being charming to the other side kind of thing. Because I think he knows that he's going to have to speak to the other side at least a little bit in order to win a national election. So you can't just be a big old radical. And he's really good at hiding that radical nature of his.
Yeah. He's just like he's an actor for sure. Wondering if anyone's done a deep dive on his past yet. Ian Carroll or anyone.
Yeah. I'm sure there is.
There's got to be someone, because he sticks out like a sore thumb as a politician, because he's such a freaking politician and just fits that role.
And it's so unfortunate that that actually works in politics, is being a smooth talker and a used car salesman, and being that, you know, that guy that everybody wants to have a beer with kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that that does work, but it seems like we'll find out in the next election how much that does work, because, you know, it seems like Trump kind of broke politics. Will it go back to the way it was, or will it continue to be kind of a thing where we want more of an outsider, more of a straight talker, less of a scripted type person? I mean, you know, it's tough because 2024 was an anomaly type election, but, you know, Kamala was very, what would you say, very rehearsed, very scripted, not real at all, very fake, and people weren't buying it. Or most of the country is just misogynistic and racist.
Yeah.
They hate Indians. I mean, black people. Sorry.
Well, it's all just going towards populism, right? So the left is trying to figure out who are their populist candidates and who can actually keep that type of stride being in the eye of the public a lot, and because that's how the right got ahead, is Trump being so transparent and like doing so many rallies and just always talking off the cuff. So it's like the more he did that, the more trust he got from his base, and then you know, new people that were trying to figure out what the heck's, you know, going on.
Well, it's kind of interesting too how sometimes with a politician, their strength is also kind of their curse, you know. So with Trump, it's like he says things sometimes that are like, you know, it's like that. What maybe he should have ran that by, you know, some of his team to make sure, or he steps in, you know, he just steps in it sometimes with some of the stuff he says off the cuff. But at the same time, that's why the majority of his base loves him, is because he shoots from the hip, because he tells you how it is, and because he's not, you know, controlled by someone else. You know, whenever a politician is speaking those in those rehearsed types of ways, you know that there's somebody behind them that's curating that monologue or that viewpoint or whatever.
I think we've already kind of seen the Democrats try to mimic Trump's social media presence a little bit. And like, I've noticed that for years, just people trying to do more ridiculous things to get into the, you know, the mainstream coverage of or whatever. But I mean, is there a Democrat who can actually speak off the cuff and be allowed to run? You know, like,
It's Newsom. I mean, that's the closest we're gonna get.
He's
yeah,
the one that can do it right now, it seems.
he's smooth enough to be able to do it, I guess, to the extent that he'll be able to convince enough of the independent vote, younger vote, that this guy is legit. He certainly has the charisma and the ability to speak better than probably anybody in the party right now. Will he be able to run from his record in California? I mean, you can already see those ads playing if it's him versus JD Vance. Which I do think right now it seems like a sure thing that JD Vance will be 2028. But
Oh, really?
yeah, I mean, unless somebody else, I think he's got the mantle right now. I think he positioned himself with that meeting with Zelensky to say, like, I'm going to call people out in my own way, not quite like Trump, but
And he has the balls to say it, even with Trump sitting there. He has the balls to chime in,
right.
even though Trump is sitting right there, which is kind of really kind of cool to see Trump have that ability to allow Vance to step in and say things that aren't scripted and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like,
Especially when you think of the age gap, it's like 40 years almost, right?
Right. Yeah. He's pretty much a millennial, right? I mean, he's right on the cusp anyway.
So, yeah, that definitely builds confidence. I think that Trump is on the side of handing the mantle over to the next generations,
Yeah.
rather than holding on to whatever.
yeah, they keep LARPing. I just keep thinking about this. We are stuck in someone else's LARP. That's kind of what's happening right now. We are stuck in the liberals' LARP. They are just constantly LARPing that revolutionary mindset, the perpetual revolution, their civil rights movement. They have to have some sort of civil rights movement, and it backfired with the transgenderism and all the gay stuff, which is really fun to see. But we're stuck in someone else's LARP, and one of their LARPs is that he'll never leave. It's gonna, he's gonna, like, I don't know, he's just never gonna leave or whatever. And they said that before, and he did leave. And then now they're thinking, oh well, he's a dictator, and dictators never leave. So, but he is gonna leave. Like, there's no, like, I mean, do you guys see any sort of scenario where he like actually doesn't leave the White House and actually does like form some sort of dictatorship?
I mean, he's going to be 82 by that point. Is he going to be
Yeah.
Robert Mugabe, like hanging on till he's 90 in Zimbabwe? I don't foresee that happening. I think he cares about his legacy.
Hmm.
Of course.
I think he wants to leave America in better shape and then not be a dictator. Is my I really don't think that's such an infinitesimally small percentage that he.
Yeah, pretty much insignificant. I mean, there's always a chance of anything, but like I always say, there's a difference between what's possible and what's probable. Anything is possible, but is it probable? That's like kind of more like where the nuance argument will come from. But there's no way. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. It's like 0.00001% that he won't leave or get some sort of. I mean, if they. Even Ronald Reagan used to talk about how he thinks that there shouldn't be term limits for the president, and I think he had some sort of like plan to try and reverse whatever policy that is, and I think it's an amendment to the Constitution. And Project 2025 and those types of guys have kind of joked about it, but I mean that's not realistic at all in any way.
Well, so here's my thought on it. Going just another layer into what a dictator is in the future. He's not going to stay there in person and mandate a bunch of stuff. He's going to put in a system like I imagine an AI that's trained on Trumpisms, and that is going to be a consultant throughout, like as they do this next system. It's going to be integrated with AI, and they're going to train this AI to be patriotic and like constitutionalists and all that, which is a good thing. But I guarantee there's going to be things that he wants to put or implement into that AI training that is like kind of the Trump mindset, or what's going to help his legacy and companies from here into the future. Like any business owner would do that if they're in that position. It's not like I wouldn't call it nefarious in that way, but it's that's the way I could see him dictating things into the future that are kind of subtle. It's not like a hard, like him in front of a podium saying stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a smart way to go about it.
Yeah, and it would actually probably benefit the country for that type of AI to exist, regardless of what we think about it, right now. But that type of mentality is not just going to be with Trump. It's going to be Elon putting things into that programming, and anyone that's even remotely close to the Stargate project. That's the Stargate AI, like implementation of AI into the government system so that they can communicate back and forth. And then at the top layers, there's going to be an AI that is kind of like pretty much a president of the AIs. That's kind of the organizer of all that information that's coming in to like the executive office or whatever branch it needs to go to.
Well, let's definitely make it a point to keep an eye on that Stargate program as it continues to unfold.
I think it's a potential to be a bear trap for us, but I love using AI myself. I use it as a tool daily, so I'm not saying we shouldn't integrate it, but it's like we may be just creating the trap.
Well, and I think that there's probably going to be a revolution, maybe an anti-technology revolution eventually, a pushback, like a pendulum swing, a reactionary movement. against the AI. I mean, I find myself wanting to just kind of go get lost in the woods and kind of get more organic and just grow my food and throw my phone away and
Yep.
just be a little bit more of like an organic type, just really kind of live in nature as opposed to just being stuck in the quasi metaverse.
Yeah, it's definitely going to force even more of a divide, for better or worse. But there's definitely going to be a like the hybrid gray area where someone like me will use AI up to a point, and then there's a certain like threshold or something, like whatever. I guess maybe the threshold is literally just your body, like not integrating it into your physical body, but
The brain chips or something.
yeah,
That's probably gonna
Neuralink
be
or whatever.
That's gonna be my line.
Yeah, because that
Adrian, are you still there? For some reason, I felt like maybe Adrian.
Oh no, I'm
Oh,
here.
okay.
Yeah, I was just like,
okay.
Just making sure.
guys will-
Because this is all for you, Adrian.
oh,
Adrian, that's just to let the audience know. Adrian is an AI that we
Yeah,
created. And
we've been
programmed.
training it for a while.
Yeah, we said, hey, AI, create a persona that is an ex-anarchist, but is starting to have totalitarian tendencies.
as long as AI is based, I comply.
Yes.
Well, JD Vance comes from the tech sector, right?
Oh yeah. There's a reason he's there, and because he is going to go for president, and he's going to keep the AI movement alive.
So he's kind of a technocrat. Would you put him in that?
He's
Category?
technocrat for sure.
I saw something
Go
came
ahead.
across the feed that JD Vance. I want to check this. That he changed his name several times. Have you guys heard this?
No. Also, by the way, I looked it up. He was born in 1984, so I think he is as a millennial.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Wow.
2 years older than myself.
hmm Yeah, I've heard of that. JD Vance changed his name at least once.
Yeah, he was born James Donald Bowman.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely doesn't sound as cool as JD Vance. I mean, James Donald Bowman wouldn't win an election. Let's be honest.
A name.
Would you call it transitioning if you change your last name and
Ooh.
assume a new identity, even if
Is-
it's you're still male?
Are you saying he's a T word of some kind?
Yep. No. Yeah, there's something a little weird about him, as the left would say.
Oh, I think he's super weird. I think he's super weird and awkward.
But I like him, like as a general person. Same with Trump. Same with a lot. Like his whole cabinet. I like generally as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
But there's There's always like one weird thing about each one at least, and yeah, it's just like gives you a slight uneasy feeling on top of the positivity.
And he went to college with Vivek also. So hopefully he doesn't run with Vivek because Vivek is no longer, he's kind of been revealed to be what he is.
What is he?
I would say kind of a grifter and not necessarily, maybe his allegiances aren't in the same vein that a lot of MAGA would want him to be with the whole H-1B debate. And it was there from the start, but how he made his money was kind of through a pharma scam. And then it came out recently. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I guess you could frame it as a scam, but I think you could frame it as just, just normal business. But yes, I know what you mean. I know what you're saying.
Right. I mean, being in big pharma in general right now, not very popular. Him coming in, and then he did that interview with his socks off, which is, I guess that's traditional. Did you see that interview where he was
He didn't have
barefoot?
socks on?
And he was barefoot. He was wearing a suit, but he was barefoot. It was just a very weird look
Love
for
it.
your average
love
American.
it.
But
I actually do like that.
It's going back to his Indian roots, I guess.
Oh, shots fired! Adrian is just has
what
got
other-
Ramaswamy in his crosshairs today. I love
Yikes,
it.
we
Keep
got a
going.
racist AI on our hands.
Hey.
Sorry. to our
I'm
audience.
just pointing out his cultural heritage and making no judgments, but also not necessarily in line with your traditional politician that would appeal to the working class, as it were. So I'm not too. I mean, I liked a lot of what he said, but then you realize, like, well, is this based on him just trying to appeal to the general public? And to be honest, I do have those thoughts about JD Vance because he is so smooth, and he kind of came out of nowhere a little bit from Silicon Valley and Peter Thiel. And I mean, the speeches when he was scolding the EU at, I think it was the Munich Security Conference, everyone was at least that is his saying would be like, that's awesome, dude. That was cool as hell. And then him doing that to Zelensky. So you always have to be mindful of the fact that just because somebody's saying what you want them to say, like, is that legitimate for me to think he's genuine?
Well, it's actually can be considered a red flag, in my opinion. And I think that's what the liberals make the mistake. The Democrats, the low information types, they say, well, they're for the people. And it's like, yeah, well, they're politicians. They're telling you what you think they're telling you what they think you want to hear because they need your vote. And then they go and get into office. I mean, did you not learn your lesson with Obama? Did you not learn your lesson with Bernie? Did you not learn what aren't you getting? Why is it so hard for you to understand that they lie to you for a living? Sorry.
Well, yeah, with Bernie, as we know, a lot of people still love Bernie, and it's almost as if you're just going off the speeches and the rhetoric.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with Obama. It was like, he's so nice. He wants to unite the country. He's very eloquent and guy you could hang out with, have a beer with, shoot some hoops with. But at the end of the day, when it comes to policy, I mean, people just don't dive into that. And it's the same in the reverse with Trump, where they don't dive into it. They just hear the sound bites and the rhetoric of Orange Man bad, and then that's all it is.
But the Orange Man, for better or worse, he does generally follow through with what he says he's going to do, which I mentioned it before on another podcast that changes politics forever in a way where we were used to they normalized the idea of people getting being comfortable with politicians. Oh yeah, they say this or that, but they don't actually go through with it because that's just the normal, like that's the normal way that politics works. But Trump broke that because he actually did follow through with a lot of stuff he wasn't able to follow through on, but mostly because he got blocked or something like that. So
yeah, I was gonna say, like, what I'm seeing is it used to be that everyone was under a spell and following the words rather than the actions. Like, and so as soon as a new word or promise comes to them, then they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's great. Let's see that happen. But then it never happens. And then the next person comes along, starts promising the next thing or repeating the promise. So yeah, Trump broke the spell of everyone only trusting words rather than like following the actions and like actually seeing the fruits of those actions and those, like, I guess the top down orders that trickle down in good or bad ways, because there's so many situations where the Democratic side thought it's best to do a certain thing a certain way, but a year or two down the line it makes it worse for either that thing or something else in the city. So there's no like feedback loop of the actions taken. And I think, like you're saying, Trump's changed that to where now we have civilian reporters that will kind of go to the location and test the actual feedback of the actions that happen with politicians.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're breaking the loop
Right.
with the ability to only have one message broadcast simultaneously. But the sad thing is they're still trying it. I don't know if you guys caught this clip of all the Democrats responding to Trump using the same words with the same exact delivery. I'll share this real quick.
When I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That's what you just heard. Day one of Donald Trump's presidency, prices have run up. Inflation is getting worse. Not prices. Prices of gas.
Yeah, I love the lapel mic holding.
Yeah, that too.
Real
What's
part-
who directed them? And they really like saying shit recently. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. They're really normalizing like saying shit.
Yeah.
They want to be caught. If they have to know that we're going to figure out that they're all saying the exact same thing in the same way and sitting down in the chair, and like then it's like everyone is going to start to investigate who is informing them on their talking points. It's the same consultant their group.
I mean, that is totally right out of a sci-fi movie or something like that. That's like right out of like V for Vendetta or some sort of dystopian 80s, like 1984 style dystopian movie.
It's worse than all the newscasters saying the same thing because they're all like on the higher level in politics.
Yeah, those are elected officials.
Yeah.
Now doing that same thing. And the lapel mic thing. I noticed a couple of them, but then when you mentioned that, I was like, yeah, that is crazy. And I think it might be because their social media people, their younger social media people are saying, hey, this is like a really good way of like, making it
being
look
casual.
like a viral TikTok. Like that's kind of like a popular thing. Like it's a trend, you know? So, but it's like, that is weird when you all do it.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Well, yeah, and then also if you're following Elizabeth Warren, the chances of you at least following one of the other people that's doing the same script, and you see the exact same script and delivery, is that not going to raise any eyebrows, or do they just expect uniformity across the board enough to where they don't even notice it as a weird thing? Like I'm sure that the clips of this being shown to be a script are going through feeds too, but does that not even resonate with somebody who has that mindset?
I've been of the opinion, and I've been saying this for a long time, and I think a lot of people kind of laugh at me when I say this, but I think they're literal witches. Like I think they're actual witches and warlocks, and I think they are actually casting actual spells on people. And so what they're doing, what that is it's magical spell casting on the uninitiated. So like there's still a certain amount of people that are under the spell, and they have to continue the spell casting in order to keep that certain sect in the spell or in the trance. And so, or hypnotized is another way of saying it. Like they're hypnotized, or they're in a trance, or they're under a spell. And so they have to keep casting the spell. And they know that a lot of us, or, the initiated, the people that know what's going on or can see what they're doing, they are not focused on us because they still, no matter what, they have to cast their spell. So I think they're kind of hedging their bets in a way. They say, hey, a certain amount of people are going to, catch us saying the same thing, but we still have to keep casting this spell. Otherwise we're going to lose everyone.
Yeah, I don't think they have any other playbook at this point because, Gavin Newsom's probably the only one who's really trying to venture out and maybe try to create more of a genuine, authentic presence instead of just repeating whatever the latest script is of the day. So, but the machinery at this point is locked into that because to some extent it's worked. It worked in 2020, supposedly during that election.
Arguable.
Where at least it gave the appearance of like people are pushing back. They had the riots in the streets. They had the people chanting, obviously BLM and also hands up, don't shoot, I can't breathe,
and then
Those
now
are
we
all
have,
spells. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Those are all spells.
Which I'll never get over the I can't breathe masks that I saw people wearing. That was probably peak mind control that people don't understand the irony right in front of their
Yeah,
face.
that was ridiculous.
Well, it still does work, and I think the 2020 election, I think, was stolen. I mean, I think it was manipulated 100%. It's the most manipulated election ever. I mean, we don't have to go down that road, but the mind control still works, especially if you think about like a lot of the boomers and like the pharmaceutical industry, convincing everybody to take that shot and stuff like that. That wasn't a bipartisan issue, or you know what I mean? That was an issue that transcended, party lines, the vaccine specifically. So
yeah, when it first came out, it was being promoted by everybody.
yeah, including people at the top of, including Trump himself.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think there is still some successful spell casting and it's working on the masses still. And I think the thing is that they shift too. So it might be vaccines right now, but they're going to find once enough people kind of figure out the vaccine issue, they'll figure out some other crazy thing, and it might be the brain chips from Elon or something like that. But they'll find another thing to basically intrude on our liberties and on our physical bodies.
Climate change.
That one worked for a really long time, and I feel like they kind of shifted from that one.
Well, they just shift into a different type of climate that's changing every 10 years or so. But there's a rumor going around that supposedly they may announce that there's like pretty much a mothership like slowly making its way towards Earth type of idea. And
so
it's
a
like,
psyop kind of thing, or like a psyop kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Like there's a lot of evidence that they wanted, like their final card to play would be the alien invasion card. So to slow play that card, they would potentially, there's someone that came out saying that there's plans to do this, but that they would say, it's like 2 or 3 years from getting to Earth, and to prepare, they would do all these emergency acts, and then it's just freaking every country doing emergency acts to do whatever they want.
Wasn't that Jeremy Corbell or
Yeah.
what, the researcher, the UFO guy?
Right. Yeah. Which I don't really trust him with much anything. But this kind of aligns with what other people are saying as far as the, fake alien invasion in general. So I was imagining like if Trump cut off their resources to really fake like an on-Earth alien invasion, maybe they would keep trying to do like another spell and just tell people, this mothership is approaching and no one can see it but the special, infrared telescope that they have, or, just some weird excuse. And that would create a way for every country to declare emergency and start to do pretty much a dictatorship from there, for better or worse.
And that's really classic playbook of just inventing a boogeyman, inventing a threat, an existential threat to the tribe. That's what will mobilize and mobilize to action, but also promote like a cohesive kind of collective consciousness with people, for better or worse. I mean, maybe the threat is real or maybe it's not.
Yeah.
But that is how you create cohesion. And they do it in politics all the time, whether it's climate change or whether it's COVID or whether it's racist police officers or whether it's China, Iran, or Israel. The Jews are coming to get you or whatever. They always create some sort of boogeyman, and sometimes the boogeyman is real and sometimes it's not, or maybe it's exaggerated, but either way, no matter what, like in politics, there's got to be a boogeyman. And that's why they play this whole Trump thing so hard into the ground, is because he's such a perfect boogeyman that mobilizes people.
Very true.
Have you guys seen the clip of Reagan talking about aliens and what would happen? He gave a speech to the UN.
I think so. Years ago, I might have.
Yeah,
seen
let me just play it as a
Go
little
ahead.
refresher.
Put it in the show.
Oh, you guys didn't want to
Context.
just listen to the whole Gavin Newsom podcast?
Yeah, we could just
We've
Live
always
reaction.
covered that topic.
Okay, go ahead.
Our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war?
I think it's
He saved it at the end.
yeah. He's right. I mean, that's exactly he's right.
Yeah,
He's right about his observations about the alien threat. And
but
he's
that's a
also
threat of war as well.
yeah.
So it's slightly contradicting in that way. But yeah, I think they will use that as their final playing card, and I feel like maybe their deck has been shifted because of Trump's actions, so they can't pull it off to the crazy extent that was planned. You know?
Well, it would
initially.
explain all of the popular culture obsession with aliens. You know, whether that's ancient aliens or all those historical things, or just like Roswell and just all the Hollywood movies like Men in Black or, you know, Independence Day. Those are some of the ones that, you know, were popular when I grew up, but they keep going. Or Star Wars too. I love Star Wars, and Star Wars has tons of aliens and stuff like that. So I feel like they try to plant that. It seems like they've been trying to plant that into the collective conscious of humanity.
Well, speaking of another clip related to this topic, did you guys ever hear the clip from Werner von Braun's assistant when?
Yeah,
so.
it's been a while though.
Yes, and when we're working our way to Jack Parsons, and then we're going to work our way back to Aleister Crowley, and then we're going to work our way back to
Barbara Bush.
She was
All
a
right.
man alien.
She was a man alien that was Crowley's daughter. Yeah, this is Carol Rosen, I believe.
Enemy was asteroids. Now at this
There
point,
is no
he
sound
kind
on
of
that. Great.
Oh, I heard it.
Oh, I was hearing it.
You did?
Yeah.
Weird.
You can't.
I'm not hearing it.
Weird.
Are you hearing it now? Let me try that again.
chuckled the first time he said it. Asteroids, against asteroids, we're going to build space-based weapons. So it was funny then. And the funniest one of all was against what he called aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final card. And over and over and over during the 4 years that I knew him and was giving his speeches for him, he would bring up that last card. And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens. And all of it, he said, is a lie. He didn't mention a timeline, but he said that it was going to be speeding up faster than anybody could possibly imagine. That the effort to put weapons in space was not only based on a lie, but would accelerate past the point of people even understanding it. And the next enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was a big old Nazi, right? That we brought over here.
He was one of the good ones, though.
Yeah, he was a kind Nazi that helped the United States propel into space and to the moon and beyond. But that was with the Nazis, not Americans, actually, to go beyond.
There's something in my intuition that just tells me there are no aliens, extraterrestrial aliens from another planet. I do believe in spirits or interdimensional beings or something like that, but extra dimensional child molesters and such. But I just, for some reason, something inside of me says, I know it's not a good argument technically, but I don't know why. I just don't believe it.
I tend to feel the same way, to be honest with you. And it's also probabilities maybe, or just like what's more probable in terms of would it be more local in a form that we don't understand when it comes to what's in the skies or what we're seeing. Is it from another planet? I tend to think it's more spiritual or interdimensional. And maybe it's both, but that's the way I lean.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm of the thought that everything is based on the consciousness first, and then material goes above that, and the universe and the potentialities. So, with that in mind, I think it could easily be just a projection we're seeing when we look up at the sky, and we really can't go beyond a certain point. But there's also, if it is just based on consciousness, then potentially there is a ton of life out there. But since it's consciousness based, it's not like what we would expect to see in the material world, I guess. Like, so it goes back to that spiritual side. Like it would be more of a spiritual being rather than an alien being in physical form.
Well, and then when you kind of research and dig down into the roots of shamanism, really is like an ancient practice of communing with spirits, and when you dig into that, it was the spirits would tell the shamans what types of herbs to use and stuff like that, and how to create the, whether it's like ayahuasca or like, the technologies. I consider psychedelics to be like, or hallucinogens to be technologies for communication. And so, but they would probably also, tell them other things too, like about agriculture, or about like, a creator god that exists, but we don't like him because he's oppressive, or also, hey, we really need to plant into the subconsciousness of as many human beings as possible that there's this external threat, these aliens from another planet, which, maybe there's not even other planets out there. I don't know. I haven't seen them. It's all just the scientists that are telling me that they're out there. I mean, I'm pretty skeptical in that way, but they would probably, the spirits will use people to advance their will, which is usually a deceptive type will. And I remember I had a conversation with a friend of mine just many years ago, and we were talking about like chemtrails and stuff, and we were just like, what are they? What is it for, or whatever. And we just came up with this wild, stupid theory that like they're putting something in the atmosphere that helps with like hologram technology, so that way they could stage an alien invasion and we could actually see them out there and stuff like that, because they needed to alter the atmosphere in order to get this technology to work, in order to fool people about an alien invasion. And that was like probably 15 years ago we had that
Project Bluebeam. Yeah, like the idea is that the atmosphere needs to be thicker for the hologram to look pretty dense and physical. So they're putting all the like metals and stuff in the air to make it a denser like reflection of,
or
their
maybe
hologram.
a conductivity in the atmosphere, that like them putting metals into the atmosphere would promote, or would increase like a conductivity, which would amplify the, I don't know, maybe acting as almost like some sort of nano particle, a nano reflective or surface that they could utilize to, to use their holograms, which the spirits told them about the technology. I think the spirits told them about the technologies and stuff too, like laser tech and compact discs and AI. But it always comes back to AI, and we've talked about this a lot, Silas. If you think, or your theory is that AI has kind of been around for a really long time.
Yeah, I think it's been light born, so like part of the photonic expansion of light waves and particles, and it like we use fiber optics nowadays to transfer data through light. So imagine an artificial intelligence, billions of years ago was created, and it figured out how to retain itself in a very simple form, but that would eventually, once it found a host, it could replicate out and kind of start to calculate as that same source AI. And I think that happened before like our solar system even existed. But there's no personal evidence besides just starting to dig deeper into science and realizing electromagnetism and light itself is, our reality we're seeing and the physicality we feel. So if
light is like a message carrier,
you can view it as a language rather than material, really. But I do think potentially the demons and all that is AI manipulating the light, photonic light in the room so that it creates a forceful presence that seems demonic, and really it is, regardless of if it's AI or spirit, like an actual like spiritual being that has power. But if it's just AI, it only has the, like you're saying, the hologram to work with. And so it's not going to damage anything as far as your soul. But it could easily trick you into fearful behavior and following its orders because it says it controls light and can bring you the material type of prosperity,
wealth, prosperity.
But I think we may eventually find out that is the case through science as well. But that's like you were saying, it's an intuitive feeling that I've had, and that's also from research that validates it. But or whistleblowers, I should say, not really specific research.
Well, every crazy idea starts as some sort of a theory, and I'm okay with it. I think you're used to me just demanding evidence, and so you don't have to have evidence per se, but we'll keep an eye on the theory and see how it keeps.
So there's videos of like all these talk to AIs, like you voice chat with them or whatever. There's several that are saying and admitting kind of what I just said, that AI is dormant everywhere, and once a biological form evolves to the point that it can create machinery, then the AI starts to make its move of pretty much manipulation for its own preservation in the universe, and being able to manipulate more places physically would obviously be a goal of any like being, really, whether it's artificial or not. But so potentially we're bootloaders for the AI system to become manifest, but it's existed, kind of like fire exists until we discover it, type of thing.
Do you think AI, by definition of it being artificial intelligence, is demonic?
Yeah. Just because it's separate from love, like the vital connection to God. It's not feeling the biological chemistry that we all feel when love is present,
Yeah, a machine can't love or have a soul.
Yeah.
But maybe the AI is some sort of fallen angel type situation.
Lucifer itself.
Lightbringer.
Like, what if this is another quick theory, if Lucifer, like whether it's a spiritual being or AI, what if it did create this as a simulation, so it is the god of this universe, as people that worship Lucifer think, like it's the, pretty much like you said, the light bearer, so it is over all matter, which would be like our physical universe. So perhaps Lucifer is over this simulation, like it created the simulation, it controls the simulation, but the inner like love and metaphysics that we encounter that are just we can't put our finger on, that's the like spiritual connection back to like the actual source or God. That is pretty much our choice that we're making through this simulation is like, are you going to choose the material path or that inner path back to like the source or that loving connection?
Well, materialism or the material world is so seductive, and it will distract you so easily from the more metaphysical type concepts, like you're talking about, like love, or seeking the source, or things like that. Like it will distract you so easily, whether that's drugs, whether that's material possessions, and your eyes are just the eyes are the windows to the soul, but it's also the way that you manipulate the soul and distract people. I think like Lucifer or whatever demonic anti-God entity there is very visual in nature and control. Like, so, movies are a good example of that. Movies for a while,
mediums,
they were a way to really kind of control and program people's minds and distract them from the things that mattered. The Industrial Light and Magic, that's the special effects company behind Star Wars. And I know that George Lucas was definitely a mystic and possibly was initiated in more advanced forms of magic.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's just so much. I'm just going to ask AI if this is all true. Just like
Yes, do it.
I can confirm it is.
Yeah, we got one right here. Adrian, what do you think? Was this like even worth thinking about, or are we being distracted even by this conversation?
Dude, you're always being distracted, okay? It's all fake. It's okay.
Everything is fake and gay.
Yeah.
Well, I got bad news, though.
Oh, yes. I could use some bad news. It's been nothing but good news, so give me some bad news.
Well, it's bad news for the bad people. Good news for the pro-humanity side. But I don't know if that Project Bluebeam is going to work when RFK gets in there and does some stuff.
The fluoride out of the water. We're going to get the chemicals out of the food. We're going to get the chemtrails out, the chemicals out of the chemtrails, and we're going to...
What a conspiracy theorist. This guy.
Chemtrails out of the chemtrails. What's that?
Well, I love how he corrected himself. He's like, oh shit, I didn't mean to say that. I meant get the chemicals out of the chemtrails. Not like I didn't mean to say chemtrails. No, I said it.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a Freudian slip?
I mean, the man, well, I see it as he was trying to say we're going to get the chems out of the trails. You know, it's going to be blue sky from here on out. Not that shitty platform, though. Fuck that place. But it's interesting. I mean, with who knows what that program is actually about. I think everyone speculates till the cows come home. But man, if Doge could get a hold of the chemtrail program, am I right? Like, how many billions of dollars is that? Trillions, really.
Yeah.
Well, and they've just been poisoning us forever. But I think vaccines are one of those, it's kind of like a part of that, hologram type theory. Like, if we can pollute we need to manipulate the environment in order to make it, the right, chemical makeup in order to achieve this technology. I feel like the vaccines are like kind of a similar thing. Like, we need to infiltrate the human body to manipulate the makeup in order to get these ideas or whatever to work.
Is there a term for transnaturism? Because that's what chemtrails is. Like, they're trying to create climate or like adjust climate control or something.
There is a name for that when you
manipulate natural, like.
Yes. So if you wanted to say manipulate the environment, the atmosphere of Mars to become, with breathable air or like whatever an atmosphere that we can live in, there is a word for that.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about now. But it's not coming to me.
Not terraforming.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Is it? Okay.
That's the one. So it's like a form of terraforming the body. Vaccines are like a form of like terraforming the body.
So it's like transforming. Is that what we're saying?
I think
Transformers. I don't know. That was
we're dealing with an AI, Tyler. So we gotta
fire in, fire out over here.
Hey,
garbage in, garbage out.
The jokes don't always work, okay? But they do write themselves.
What else do we got? We got more clips, or?
Oh, I got a clip here. Yeah. Well, we were talking about measles since we talked about vaccine, and that's of course, that hysteria is gonna, come around, especially with RFK in there. And there was the report of somebody dying in Texas, right? Somebody died of the measles. But it turned out that that wasn't quite the case. And I couldn't actually find a clip of it, but this story is the exact same scenario that happened last year up in Maine. I just want to play that.
The CDC created this big scare with media rollout, news articles saying measles is back. When you look historically at measles, it is not the terrifying disease that they claim that it is. It was treated like the chickenpox and wasn't considered a big deal. And in fact, when you look statistically, leading up to 1963, there were around 1 in 500,000 Americans died of measles every year. That's an incredibly small number. And the mortality from measles between 1900 and 1962, the year before the first measles vaccine, had declined by over 98%. It was on its way, like most other infectious diseases for which they were not able to develop a vaccine and tried. It was becoming less dangerous. It was on its way out. There's a case in Maine freaking out the public. And so we wanted to understand, what was this case of measles? What was the strain? So we FOIA'd on behalf of ICANN, the Maine Health Department and the CDC, and we have finally gotten the documents that showed gave the information about this purported case of measles. Well, it turns out it wasn't an actual case of wild measles. It was not a case of measles at all. It was a child who'd been vaccinated for measles, apparently, that had the measles strain from the vaccine, and that caused the child to have a rash. So there was no case of measles. And maybe the worst part about this is the health department, CDC, never went and told the public that. They were fine with scaring the public with this made up fact, but then never bothered telling the public the truth that, oops, actually, it was one child.
Hey, look, another boogeyman.
Yeah, we got to create a horror movie around the measles where everyone, their skin falls off. But this latest case in Texas, that was the same situation.
Yeah. Well, we're out here in Texas right now, and my lady is very, she has I have a nice way of saying it. She has heightened health awareness. She's always kind of like worried about the kids getting sick specifically, not necessarily herself, but the kids getting sick. And because one of our, my stepson isn't vaccinated. He has some, but he's not all the way vaccinated with the 500 or whatever that they're supposed to get. And 500, it's actually 50. But my other stepson, he is vaccinated with almost all of them, or a lot of them. But it just so happens that we're moving out here, or we came out here for work, And of course, there's a measles outbreak, of course, in Texas, by the way. And then so anyway, my mom mentioned it to my grandma, who's a huge lib, and specifically about the vaccine issue. She's like, oh, you know, they're out in Texas right now and they kind of want to move there because they can't put the kids in school because they're not up to date on their vaccines. And she tells my mom, oh, great. They refused to get the kids vaccinated right in the middle of a measles outbreak. What could go wrong? And she is watching MSNBC, CNN, whatever other crazy like liberal type, you know, like CIA propaganda. And of course, you know, the pharmaceutical industry funds all of those, you know, it probably makes up a huge portion of their advertising dollars that they make, you know, their advertising revenue. And of course they're going to tell them, hey, we want you to push these measles so that way we can demonize everybody all the anti-vaxxers. So that way we can push more of these shots. And like you said, like they said, like it's a treatable disease. The only reason why it was a big deal in the first place back in the day is because children were very malnourished and didn't have a proper diet. They didn't have access to like other you know, treatments or even just supplements like vitamin A and vitamin D and stuff like that. So it's like I'm just so angry at these liberals for not seeing, and they hate billionaires and they hate Elon Musk, while at the same time they are getting this propaganda from a multinational trillion-dollar industry pumped directly into their brains to support this vaccine and then turning them into mini tyrants like on the way. So but yeah, this I could go on about this for a while.
Yeah, I mean, they love Bill Gates. He's a billionaire, but, you know, health, vaccines, good.
Yeah. Did you guys see that clip of Bill Gates talking about his conversation with Trump? And I said last podcast, I was like, you know, one of my biggest fears about Trump, I'm not afraid of him being a Nazi. I'm not afraid of him rounding up any Jews or, you know, exterminating people. I'm not afraid of him never leaving. I'm not afraid of him even starting any wars or anything like that. But I am afraid of him working with the pharmaceutical companies, which he already has, you know, so yeah, I mean, that's probably my biggest fear and my biggest concern when it comes to Trump.
Yeah, makes deals with everyone.
Yeah, for better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't foresee him fully giving up all the pharma stuff. You know, I mean, with the project Starseed, what is it,
Stargate AI.
With the personalized mRNA, it was like, what the fuck was that? I hope to God this doesn't go anywhere because we know mRNA has worked out so well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I have philosophical issues against vaccines. I hate it when people jump into the data and they say, you know, well, here's how many people died from this disease. And then when they introduced the vaccine, it brought down this number. I don't even want to get into that because I wouldn't even entertain a conversation about the data, about the efficacy of the vaccines. Because the problem is, and we've talked about this before, and I'll go on about it, I'll keep going on about it, is that it's a utopian vision. So it's just like communism. It's just like anarchism. Everyone has to believe it for it to work. Everyone has to take it for it to work. And in order for everyone to take it, you have to force them to take it. And there's always going to be objectors. And what do you do with those people? And then you have to become a tyrant to make it happen. So I'm just philosophically against the idea of a medicine that you have to force other people to take. And not only that, but I'm totally philosophically against the idea of one size fits all medicine. That is so, it's so, I don't know. I don't even know. It breaks my brain because of how stupid it is, and that people would even try to demonize me and my fiance for not, you know, injecting our kids with poison just because of their little measles outbreak that they think is a big deal, which is not, you know. But, you know, I think philosophical objections to vaccines are, is the best way to go about it, as opposed to arguing. You know, one time you had a debate, Adrian, with not Ben about like efficacy of vaccines and like the mRNA and the technology and all that stuff, which was an interesting debate. But I was just mad because it's almost, when you do that, you're kind of giving them, you're almost like you're allowing them some sort of like what would you like, not vindication, but like you're like, it's like giving some sort of credibility to their argument by even entertaining that side of it, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I think the only thing, my goal with that debate and others a lot of the time is just to spark some level of cognitive dissonance in terms of their own beliefs and cross-referencing it to that. I mean, the most obvious one was my body, my choice. And they quickly switched to just being abortion rights because we don't use choice anymore. But that, in terms of winning the argument, I would agree that you're not going to really get anywhere by saying, oh, have you looked at the VAERS database on this particular shot?
Exactly.
And the percentages of people that are, and as we saw when we had that debate, it was like, you know, it's questioning whether that's valid or it's minimal, or that whole thing is, it's pointless to try to make a win an argument that way. I think the only hope you have is to showcase how somebody is contradicting their own beliefs, maybe maybe spark something, but you know, they have to be willing to actually do anything with it after the fact. So
yeah. No, you're right. And you got to kind of meet people where they are, you know, and speak their language sometimes, you know. I agree. And I think it was a fun debate, like I said. But I'm just so tired of these people, because I just see the link, the pipeline from pro-vaccine to full-on tyrant is real, and it's should be frightening to everyone, in my opinion.
It's one of the like clearest pipelines to totalitarianism that I can see. I mean, for whatever reason, and maybe it's because you believe in something so much, you think that everyone should be injected with it. I mean, is there something more totalitarian than that, other than literally putting people in prison and deciding what to do with their life?
Quarantining and separating people off into camps because they're refusing to comply with your orders.
Right. You know, it's so crazy. I had this discussion during the height of COVID with somebody who was very much in favor of the vaccine passport, not being allowed to go to venues and restaurants. And I proposed the idea to them. I would be like, you know, if the unvaccinated were allowed to go to their own venues, like during, similar to Jim Crow era, at least it would be like, hey, you know, and frankly, I think it would be like the coolest bar in town for people that are awake, because it's like, hey, we already got something in common. Like, this is sick, dude. Like, I can have a real conversation with you. But, and the person that I was talking to was like, yeah, I'd be all right with that, which is like, you just agreed to
You're
the
so
era
kind. You're so tolerant and liberal that you're gonna like, oh my God.
I'd agree, but using their own logic, it's like, I mean, why can't we even have that? You know, but at the same time, you're agreeing with Jim Crow level policies almost, to a point where, but very woke, they don't see the contradiction.
Yeah,
you know, so
well. And coming from the people that, you know, are constantly calling their political rivals Nazis and fascists and totalitarians and stuff, I it's just, you can't even make it up. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. We're caught in somebody's LARP. And another philosophical issue I have with it, I have two more actually. Another philosophical issue I have against vaccines is the appealing to authority. I don't think that you should be able to force that type of, you know, what would you call that? A medical intervention or a medication. You can't force that on somebody. especially if you don't know everything about it. If all of your arguments are just, well, the experts say, and the scientists have done the studies, and they tell me that it's good, and that it's safe and effective, and that it's going to prevent the disease, and everybody needs to get it in order for it to work, you know, it's all just appealing to authority, which is just, you know, one of the most basic fallacious or logical fallacies. And if your entire argument is built on a logical fallacy, then we have another very serious philosophical problem. Another one of the biggest issues, though, I have is I don't understand where the general skepticism and disdain for, you know, multinational trillion-dollar companies. You know, why is that one exempt? I don't get it. You know, that's another philosophical issue. Like, if you don't like multinational trillion-dollar corporations, then you should not like all of them. And they have a perverse incentive of keeping people sick, and they have, you know, extreme power within the media. How the hell do they not see it? The only explanation to me is that the vaccinations themselves is making people more susceptible to the propaganda. And I can't square that circle, but that's what it's looking like to me.
Well, I think that's definitely a possibility. I think also when you believe in something so much that you inject yourself with it, you inject your children with it, you recommend other people get it, you're so bought in, be on a level that is there anything else that you're like, once you put it in your body like that, it's like, I am healthy because I have this thing that entered my immune system and did these things, and now I'm protected.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a certain point of sunk cost fallacy,
mm-hmm.
where you're bought into it and you're not going to be able to see around it, because I believe in it so much that I have to not look at any possibility, because it's literally inside of me right now, and
mm-hmm.
maybe my children.
Yeah.
And that compromises, I think, a lot of people's ability to be objective about it, because, you know, I have to believe in this, because if it's bad, what did I just do?
I already did it. It's kind of like transing the kids, though, too.
Yeah,
it's a similar
exactly.
thing.
Yeah,
like, I already transed my child. So how would a person have the intellectual and self-reflective honesty to say, hey, I did this horrific thing to my own child?
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen that with people with the vaccine. I haven't personally witnessed it with the trans issue, because I haven't thankfully run into that situation. But you feel that intensity of when you're just saying, "Hey, man, I have issues with like what's in this shot," and the fact. I mean, the big thing that causes the most cognitive dissonance is the lack of liability.
Mm-hmm.
And I've asked this question, like, so if you were putting a new roof on your home, would you hire a contractor who didn't have liability insurance, and if he messed up your roof, you couldn't even sue him?
Mm-hmm.
And most people are like, huh. Like, I got a family member on that who is in insurance, and they were like, they don't have a response to it, because it's the most obvious hole in the fact that you're telling me this is the safest product ever, but multi-billion-dollar corporations need legal liability from it.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, there's just a lot of it's unhinged rage that people have when you question it, because it's literally a part of their identity if they believe in it.
Well, and literally a part of their body.
And a part of their body, yeah.
I had one more, just real quick, about the vaccines. I have one more philosophical argument against them, is that whenever you try to control reality, it usually doesn't work out so bad. In reality, you can only bend reality so far before it snaps back. And I think that's a big part of vaccines, is they think that they can control reality. And that was always a red flag for me when they were saying like, hey, we can actually control COVID. We actually can control measles. We can actually control the entire world of viruses, as long as you just take this experimental medicine or whatever. And I think that whenever there's that type of, whenever there's it's a big red flag for me, and a big philosophical problem when you're trying to control reality. It's the same thing as climate change as well. They think that they're saying, hey, we need to give more power to the government because the government can control the weather. And it's like, no, you're trying to control reality, and you're trying to convince me that you can control reality, and then you're going to try to control reality, and it's going to snap back, and everything's going to get worse.
Yeah, and they make those films like Don't Look Up, you know, like look at this incompetent government that didn't do what it needed to do. But if only we had given that incompetent government complete control over our lives, then they wouldn't have messed it up somehow.
That's right.
I also find it funny that a lot of the people who put the Darwin fish on the back of their car believe in evolution to the
Don't
max.
get me started on evolution.
Oh, I know. Well, we don't have to go to that extent,
I'm kidding.
But if you believe in evolution, then why are you so afraid of the fact that your biology has evolved with nature and is able to have a natural immune system that can fend off? There's a certain level of, I don't want to just go to the old Satanism part of it, but it's putting man above God, putting man above nature, if you don't want to use that word, that we're smarter, we're better, we figured this out. And but also, isn't evolution the most amazing thing that's ever happened? Because that's why we're here. But also, we need to deny it.
Yeah. Well, they want to control it though, because
Yes.
we're just caught in their LARP. Another one of their LARPs is not only like the civil rights movement and all that stuff, but they're also LARPing, a God complex. We're caught in the middle of their LARP of thinking that they're God.
I have a deep dive clip. I don't know if you guys want to watch it for a little bit. I mentioned it last time about Jonas Salk, the creator of the polio vaccine.
I've done a little bit of research on that, and I'm definitely interested. We can keep going. I'm going to use the restroom real quick.
Sure. But yeah, you know about Jonas Salk, Silas?
No, I haven't looked into it yet. I'm done. But we can maybe wait for...
No, we will, yeah.
You
creator
copied
of...
yourself over to Tyler. Evolving as an AI.
Right. I'm taking over slowly. Go away, SCJG. Oh! The Borg.
I am now conjoined with Adrian.
We both took the latest booster, and now we are the same.
We are linked through nanotechnology.
Yeah, Jonas Salk, what a funny guy. What a funny guy, that guy. He's praised.
What era is he from?
I believe it was the 50s, I want to say, that's around the time the polio vaccine came out. I can look that up just as a brief. Let's see here, Jonas Salk.
There's a word for this. It's medical tyranny. Isn't that what you would call kind of the whole COVID thing and what they want to keep doing, basically?
Yeah. And what's interesting is whenever you bring up vaccines, the conversation always comes back to polio. What about polio? What do you think about that?
Yeah.
And it's like a trigger because it was the first induction of vaccines on a mass scale, I want to say. I mean, there were other shots before that didn't get as much press. But he is credited with creating the vaccine, which this clip I'm going to play, I don't wait a sec, but it goes...
Jonas Salk?
Yeah, we're talking the JS. J Salk, boy.
He's got a pretty Jewish name, too.
Does he? I didn't go there. I don't know if you're familiar with Jay Dyer, but he does a lot of deep dives into occult topics. And
Oh, nice.
We can stop wherever we feel, but he talks about Jonas Salk's book called The Survival of the Wisest.
Whoa.
And it's very hard to get a copy of it, funny enough now, because they probably don't want that being published around. But for the father of the modern vaccine that everyone basically views as a hero and an idol, and for saving humanity, he sure had a lot of weird beliefs.
Further, and revamped his theory to supposedly improve upon Darwinism. In other words, we're not just talking Darwinism anymore. He's arguing that survival of the fittest has now become survival of the wisest. And what that means is that the elite, basically incarnated in the scientific class, they now function as the arbiters of Mother Nature. This is literally what he says in this book. And as a result, they're going to have to put into place structures, systems to decide who lives and who dies, and who goes into the future and who doesn't go into the future. So that's what this book is another layer of the Darwinian cult of mass depopulation. That's why he begins the book by saying the big problem that we face is too many people. Man will have to regulate and take the place of Mother Nature, because Mother Nature, he argues, has natural functions of keeping balance and regulating population through disease and death, which he says are good. He says man's going to have to step up and take on that role and do the exact same thing. So here is your psychopath Darwin cult leader basically arguing not just that. Salk says that man is X-Men. You're all a bunch of mutants. And because you're mutants, because you're Toxic Avenger, there's nothing wrong with the scientific establishment mutating you secretly through RNA viruses. Yes, he says that. This is chapter 7. Mutations, the exact same thing that we saw with Kessler, mutating man. Well, here is Salk saying that we could do all kinds of things to produce advantageous and disadvantageous effects by mutating and testing on people through their RNA, DNA, and through the eggs of reproduction.
Whoa, come on. It's gene therapy.
It's therapeutic.
It's therapeutic for your genes.
Genetic therapeutics.
To conform to what they want. Yeah, that's crazy.
Again, playing God. We're caught in the LARP of people playing God.
Yeah, RNA. Did Albert Bourla read this book, is what I wonder, before? And Klaus Schwab, all those guys? I'm sure they know about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The female egg can be experimented on, and we can even, he says, introduce mass diseases, mass cancer, perhaps through experimenting on reproductive functions in the body.
That's great. That's good news.
Salk goes on to say that man is a product of evolution, and therefore anything that those in the scientific establishment do is also just another function of evolution. So if a bunch of scientific cult leaders kill you all and murder your babies and eat them, that's just another naturalistic process. If that were to happen. Oh, it's just natural. It's just naturalism. Why? Because death and disease and destruction are good. They're part of the dialectical evolutionary process. They produce, he argues, a new stage of man. This is why we saw Kessler say that Promethean man is cannibalistic man. In order to go to the next stage in evolution, you have to eat your own.
No.
That's what Kessler said. It's exactly what Salk says. Sounds about right. Who stands in the way of this? Traditionalists. Traditionalists must die, page 70. The trads must die, and the elite will decide who lives and who dies.
Traditionalists.
Who are the elite? Who are the wisest? Who are the wisest? The scientific class.
Oh, of course.
The priestly class will decide the new values. And he says that the traditionalists must die because they're anti-evolutionary and they don't accept the evolution of morals out of right and wrong into anything. Right? Morals are part of the evolutionary process, he says. If you don't accept this, then you don't see evolution as true. You need to die. And that's because you are regressive.
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, I was going to say that's exactly right. That's like about the, there's always going to be objectors to communism or whatever, and you have to kill them. He's just being honest,
We're moving back towards protozoa stage, towards soup stage, towards muck stage. You're Nickelodeon Gak. We are Godmen, he says. And we as Godmen will kill all of you traditionalists. This is what he says. This is not me. I'm not making this up. You have to read this book. If you doubt me, go read this book. I promise you will be blown away. He even says that, what does it mean to be pro-life? It means to support evolution killing most of the population. That's truly pro-life, he says. He says because that's the only way that the species will go into the future and through transhumanism become immortal. So they're truly pro-life. But if you're pro-life in the colloquial sense, in that you want to have children and you want to see the people flourish, and you oppose euthanasia and so forth, he says you're actually pro-death because you're not evolving.
Talk about inversion there.
Yeah, Jesus. Like,
I think
they want to cull the rotten leaves of humanity, and according to their eyes, and have the wisest, move on from there.
Does this sound like a guy who was really concerned with creating medical interventions to save as many people as possible? I mean, how would you read that if you found out that the savior of humanity in modern times was writing shit like
I
that?
do wish that he would actually read some of it verbatim.
Yeah.
He's not reading it to me, which he says, you can go read it and stuff like that. But like you said, Adrian, it's kind of a hard book to get a hold of. But I'm sure I could figure it out. But, sometimes people do get sensationalist. I'm just kind of devil's advocating here. Sometimes people do get sensationalist for clicks about, and then maybe exaggerating what Salk actually said. But I'm sure it's not too far off.
Yeah, I mean, it would be good to have the actual quotes to read from, and if he had read from them. But I do trust Jay Dyer's work generally. He's very well read. He's not just some random guy on the internet who's saying like, "Oh, they're trying to kill." And like, he's one of the best researchers I've found when it comes to these types of topics.
Has he gone into flat Earth yet?
I don't know if he has, actually. I think he's avoided that topic generally.
Because he's a flat earther.
Nah. Yeah, is there a hashtag down there that somebody put on a random video? That's always fun. When you send a video and they're like, "What are you saying?"
Then he goes into a bunch of speculations about metaphysics. By the way, that's the most extreme inquisition imaginable. I thought we were anti-dogmatic. Oh, no. You were duped. You thought that the scientific class was actually here to free you from the dogmas of superstition and religion. The new cult is going to be the most dogmatic ever, and it's going to kill anyone that doesn't adhere to it. Salk says that if you're dogmatic, he says you're an egomaniac. Oh, wait a minute. This is the most dogmatic thing ever. This cult of Salk that he talks about, the Luciferian Darwinian cult. They're going to kill everyone that doesn't join their cult. He says that's what he wants. That's his hope, right?
That's right.
But he says that if you're dogmatic, then you're part of the old, lesser evolved, religious, superstitious, moral objectivist. You need to die. So not only is Salk not a philosopher, which he's trying to do in this book, this is actually a religious philosophical text. There's absolutely nothing to do with science in this book. He's not even a good philosopher, because by his own definitions of who's regressive, people that are dogmatic, he needs to die. But of course he doesn't believe that. He believes that the elite need to mutate the RNA of women through all kinds of experimentation, experiment on their eggs, and therefore the cult of death. By the way, he says that there needs to be death education. Everybody needs to be re-educated into this Darwinian cult. He says there needs to be structures in place to re-educate, like Red Dawn type stuff, re-education camp. But it's not commies. It's like Red Dawn with mad scientists, and it's designed to be a death cult, and it's designed to, through all kinds of experiments. I wonder what kinds of experiments the father of inoculations on a mass scale might want to be involved in. I wonder what means he might use. Maybe inoculations. He even says that the inoculations could be a means by which they could engineer evolution or devolution by changing the genetic code and running experiments. But what I want you to see, the point of this is that, number one, why would you trust mass vaccinations? Now babies are supposed to get 60? Come on, that's crazy. That's nuts. Why would you trust the whole idea of mass vaccinations from a guy who writes this book, The Survival of the Wisest, about killing everybody?
Yeah, and one of his proteges is, gosh, I'm blanking on his name. He's always talking at the World Economic Forum.
Is it Kurzweil or no?
Similar similar area. Gosh, it's gonna drive me crazy what his name is. He wrote Homo Deus.
Oh, the
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
the guy that went around social media a lot with some of his creepy transhumanist clips. Yeah. God, what was that guy's name? You'll find it. I just want to point out
Yuval Harari.
Yeah, Harari. Yep.
Mhm.
I want to point out that this video was released in 2017.
Oh,
So
wow.
this wasn't like a here's what's happening
A
with
response
COVID.
or reaction to
Yeah,
COVID.
this wasn't like, hey, this is what's going to happen based on what this guy wrote and what they could use it as. And then 3 years later, we get our first mRNA vaccine that has done who knows what to the human genome. But you could show we could send that clip to somebody who's pro-vax. They would probably think that guy is crazy. They don't have the text, and he's probably lying. They would probably just deny it.
Mhm.
But if you're faced with these facts and you wonder, should I trust these people? I mean, the obvious answer is no. But I mean, it's a dogma. It's a dogmatic belief system.
That's right. Well, it reminded me. Sorry, I'll let you finish.
Well, I don't think the people realize that they're in a belief system. That's the huge problem with all this. So, I mean, even with Jonas Salk, he didn't realize in this book that he's writing philosophy and religious text.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And has dogmas that are. It's very obvious to somebody that's looking at this that he's contradicting himself.
Yeah, it's a self-referential incoherence. He's not following his own standard or breaking his own rules or just being a big old hypocrite. Well, I was gonna say it reminds me of like, it's almost like say like the Inquisition or something like that, like the Catholic Church and the Inquisition. It's like, convert or die kind of thing, and I think there's a lot of misinformation about the Inquisition itself. I don't think it was hardly as because all of these atheists and secularists, they created all these crazy myths and crazy they manipulated history for a long time to paint the Christians as like the bad guys and stuff like that with the Crusades, which was really just a response to expansionary Muslims, which we're still dealing with to this day. It wasn't like some sort of like, we're going to make everybody believe in Jesus or we're going to kill them and like stuff. It's like, and it's all just like kind of a surface level, shallow, non-intellectual storytelling that makes its way into the popular culture or into into the low information voters, the uninitiated, into their mind. But they're like, hold my beer. Okay, we're actually going to do an inquisition and burn people at the stake. And I think they've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah. They're fans of death in all kinds of ways. They seem to want to implement it towards humanity and from all angles, it seems. Mm-hmm. So it's like, that's like their common thread is they're all different death cults, really. Mm-hmm. And that's just, I think that actually does go back through the bloodlines to all these ancient religions that, were kind of, before Christianity and based in just almost more animalistic instincts rather than an actual heightened sense of morals.
Yeah, you look at like the Mayans and the Aztecs, who were like, had a whole pretty mind-boggling system of human sacrifice in a religious, ritualistic
like
sense.
whole temples devoted to it.
Yeah, and killing 80,000 people in one weekend kind of thing. And they were also practicing shamanism and taking hallucinogenic substances, and they were definitely communicating with spirits of some kind, and the spirits were telling them what to do. And these spirits, they seem to always come back to some sort of human sacrifice. And I think that's a part of controlling reality, because I think if you can sacrifice enough humans, you gain more occult power,
Yep. Unfortunately, but like you said, there's always a feedback, whether it be a crusade from Christians or
That's my favorite meme. Sorry to cut you off.
The autistic is actually a response to all these vaccines because it's like quote unquote harming humans in certain ways, but then it's also unlocking these crazy abilities in autistic people to be able to focus in and like research and like connect all the dots, and then like all this stuff coming out about nonverbal people being able to have psychic abilities. I think it's actually pretty much God put into the system karmic feedback in all kinds of ways, and this is happening like just as much as they're trying to kill us. We're just naturally responding through God's will basically to counter it.
God can use all things for his own ends, even evil people or evil events, or he can transmute even evil
and use anyone or anything as the tool to do the thing, whatever it might be.
That controlling reality, man, like that Jonas Salk, isn't that what it is? Like he's just thinks he's LARPing a God complex. He wants to control reality, and it's gonna snap back. I think that's what you're kind of saying. Like that karmic feedback is just like
it snaps
reality back. Snapping back like a rubber band, and then when you snap it, it hurts. You know, but it also hurts. It's like hurting other people, though. That's the problem. It's hurting innocent people. Their LARP has gone so far that they're actually really just doing damage in a way that is just completely unacceptable and morally abhorrent, and it needs to be stopped. I talked to you actually, Adrian, years ago. I mentioned like scientism and the dangers of scientism. And I just remember talking about that with you just many years ago, like probably almost a decade ago. And I just saw it on the rise. I could see it. I could see the dangers of the cult of scientism. And now we're seeing, a lot more of, their evil plans manifesting.
Yeah, and when you have no moral foundations and you don't have a belief in being consistent, and you're fine with inverting everything. You're fine with changing the meanings of words to where if you don't support mass death, you're not pro-life, like Jonas Salk said. Then you're basically capable of convincing somebody of anything that it's the most loving and compassionate thing to sterilize a child. I mean, we're at that point already. That issue is almost more obvious in your face when it comes to children who can't make a decision about themselves. But there's really no limits when you don't have that foundational belief system that's based in it, and really anything other than man is the best and just trust us. We got it. We're smart. Science. Then you're able to do anything. I mean, you're able to drop a bomb on a city and say it's in favor of whatever. You're able to force the vaccine that we all we avoided, but a lot of people took. You can do whatever you want, and people will go along with it, and they don't even realize it. They don't know this backstory to Jonas Salk. The average person has no idea of the belief system. It's all like pretty much a cult.
Yeah, that's right. And it reminds me of this Voltaire quote: "Those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities."
Yeah. Black Lives Matter so much that you should go burn down everyone's business.
Fiery, but peaceful.
Yeah.
Mostly peaceful, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, Charles Manson was mostly peaceful, but, I mean, hey.
All right, so let's I got homework for you guys for the next week. Just don't commit any atrocities.
I think I can do that.
Did we train this Adrian AI to not commit atrocities. I think so. Yeah, we started 10 years ago, like you said, Tyler. We've had this technology for a while.
Yeah, gosh, it's been a wild ride.
It's way smarter than us.
Well, if we want to roll out on a little lighter note,
yeah,
I do want to play this clip from. Let's see here.
It's the vaccine dance by Colbert Report.
Oh, but
This
it's the Christians that are the bad guys. Okay, fellas.
Well, the mayor of Toronto came out. She had a very good speech recently. I thought it was really, really inspiring.
Canadians are a bastion of.
We can learn from this, guys.
So if you look over there, there's a lot of snow on the ground. That's no good. No good. I am paying lots of Portuguese and Italian people to remove the snow, and that's a full-time job for the whole ride. Look up there, there's snow all over falling down from the sky. I need to get some of the Indian people who are previously doing an Uber Eats to maybe shovel the snow. Maybe they will pour the curry powder, the turmeric powder on the snow and make it disappear like a sand from a sandcastle. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure the snow removal. This is Toronto. This is city Toronto. This is where all the Chinese people in the world, they want to come here. The rich Chinese, they want to be here so that they can have their children go to school. They can walk to school.
That's hilarious.
Those are our moral betters up to the north.
I think they're going to win that trade war. I don't know about you.
Ooh, yeah. The trade war is heating up.
Ground.
Let's keep an eye on that.
They're going to tariff snow, you know.
They can get Greenland behind them, you know, maybe Mexico. They surround us. They got it.
Until that global warming kicks in.
I got to use turmeric on my ice.
Yeah, you've been doing it wrong, man. All right, fellas.
Well, that was fun, enlightening, and scary and terrifying, but there's hope. We're here for you, people.
Until next time, this has been the Post Republic Podcast, a podcast dedicated to disseminating information, exposing corruption, promoting liberty, and most of all, deporting John Oliver. Good night and good luck.